And we're back, and this is the second verses of this week. And you told me about how you wanted to put these two against each other a long time ago. And this is when we're finally coming down to it. Obviously, it's a scary themed verses, and you threw out a cryptic comment of daylight. Well, obviously, it makes sense that these movies involve both pretty much fears of daylight, because we have the battle between Kathryn Bigelow's Near Dark against the Lost Boys. So, AJ, take it away.
You're gonna acknowledge that it's Joel Schumacher.
It is, yeah. You know, Schumacher's been discussed a lot on this channel, thanks to Will. So, I mean, it's probably best that I don't, because I don't want Will destroying his computer right now watching this. It's Schumacher! And he just punches his computer, and then I get the bill for it.
The only bad movie Schumacher really made was Batman and Robin, though.
But that was enough for him.
He made Phone Booth and
yes, he did.
Yeah. And fucking Flawless.
Schumacher's a decent director. It's just one bad movie can ruin an entire filmography in some people's minds.
Well, regardless, I mentioned we actually had a lengthy talk about this already.
Yes, we did.
With that other video I did a while back.
It was the obscure video. If you guys haven't checked it out, it's on the AJ's movie reviews playlist, so you can check that out.
Where it's basically, these are basically the same movie, and they were released in the same year.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one's darker than the other.
Pun not intended, obviously.
And this, Near Dark was overshadowed by The Lost Boys, because The Lost Boys came out in the summer, and Near Dark that October. And The Lost Boys had much more of a hip quality to it than Near Dark did, because The Lost Boys is more of a comedy than anything.
Yeah.
And it's got, like the snappy dialogue, and it's got a lot of quotable lines and a lot of memorable scenes. And
yeah.
Near Dark is more of this hardcore horror thing, where The Lost Boys is more of a fun thing.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so, I guess we'll start with The Lost Boys.
Okay.
Since it's here. Obviously, The Lost Boys is a classic.
Yeah.
And what makes it work so well is the fact that, it's one of those movies where not only is it it's like one of those ultimate 80s movies.
Yeah.
Where you just feel 80s when you're watching it. I wasn't even born in the 80s and I can feel it.
Like watching Top Gun.
But the great thing about it is it's only an hour and a half, and so many scenes in it feel like classic movie scenes. Like there's them hanging under the train. There's the opening where they kill the security guard.
Mm.
There's the when they first go down into the lair and they're eating Chinese food that turns into maggots and worms. And the wine that may or may not be
blood.
Yes. Well, they talk about it being David's blood, but apparently we're supposed to assume it's probably Max's blood. But and then of course all the Corey Haim Frog brothers back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
The dinner scene with Max is great, where they figure him out, but obviously the twist at the end is we didn't think about the fact that Michael invited Max in, which rendered everybody powerless. So when they threw water on him or put a mirror up to him or had him eat garlic, nothing worked on him.
The only reason I know that is Paul Rubens trying to get invited into Christy Swanson's house in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's the only reason I know that is the case. You have to be invited in.
And a lot of movies are covered it, but I can't think of the others off the top of my head.
Not movies I've watched.
Apparently, it wasn't very well known back when this came out.
Okay.
Because that was used as a twist. So, and it's got these great characters. Like all the characters are the most sympathetic character of the movie is the Diane Weiss character.
Mm.
On top of there's also the Corey Haim character. because they have the like I was talking about, what we were talking about recently, Texas Chainsaw, where when you watch horror movies, generally when they're sibling characters, you can't really tell. You kind of get lost on who's a sibling to who because the characters are just kind of thrown in there.
Very true.
But Michael and Sam really have this brotherly relationship that's strong through the whole movie and actually brings the heart that needs to be there because it's the whole like he has to. There's the scene where it's kind of a joint scene. It's when Michael is turning into a vampire while Sam's taking a bath, and then Nook is laying next to the tub.
Mm.
And Michael comes up while Sam's underwater, so Sam can't see him, and Nook attacks Michael, and that's when we realize that basically Sam needs protected from his own brother. And then there's the moment where Michael realizes he can fly, but he can't control, so he's just floating around aimlessly, and he doesn't know how to get down.
Nice.
And he's hanging out the window. And of course, Sam has to make the decision whether to help him or not.
Mm.
And you see this look on Corey Haim's face that's really genuine, where he really doesn't know whether to trust Michael the vampire or Michael his brother.
Yeah.
So, then there's, you could dissect the Sam character too. There's something I hadn't really thought about much, but I'm just going to throw this out there as a theory. It's the internet. Why not throw out a theory?
You already threw out theories yesterday, so you might as well throw out theories today.
That's what the internet's for, is fucking theories on movies that make no sense.
Indeed.
I think Sam might be gay.
Really?
Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just like some kind of thing they threw in, kind of like, to kind of give it more character.
Mm.
Like they threw little clues in. Clue number 1, the earring.
Okay.
Clue number 2. Okay, I don't really have a specific clue for clue number 2. I'm trying to get to clue number 3 and I need filler. We'll say his spiky blonde hair is clue number 2.
Yeah.
Okay, clue number 3. I never noticed this for the longest time. And then it just occurred to me. Okay, he's got a poster over here. It's like a movie poster thing called Reform Schoolgirls.
Okay.
But I think we're supposed to assume that Grandpa put that there. Sam has his own posters. Okay. Now, there'd be no point to bring up the character's sexuality, of course.
Yeah.
Especially in the 80s.
Exactly.
Because that was still back when PC didn't matter when you were talking about this. But Sam has 2 of his own posters up. Now, let's say, I'm not positive this was it, but I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was a poster of Molly Ringwald. Now, the thing is if I had a poster of Molly Ringwald in my room, it would probably be her doing something sexy.
Yeah.
Because despite the character she played in the 80s, Molly Ringwald is actually hot.
I agree.
More nowadays, like she's aging well too. Like she looks really good nowadays. But it's just like this picture of her sitting in class. Like I'd see her from Pretty Pink or 16 Candles. I think it's 16 Candles, but it's just like a regular 16 Candles poster. And we get a look at his closet door. We only get really one decent look at it. It's kind of in the background. Do you know the poster that's on Sam's closet door? Yep, it's a poster of Rob Lowe in a tank top showing his stomach.
And we're looking at it right now, actually. I found it on Google.
So somebody besides me noticed.
Doesn't make you feel as bad, does it?
Yeah, so yeah, they just kind of, I found it kind of interesting that they just kind of, assuming that was their intention, they gave him character development without really needing to make it obvious.
Yeah, okay, we'll go with that.
So I found that a good little thing.
Got it.
Let's talk about Kiefer.
Okay.
I believe there's a very popular vampire book. There's just a book about vampires. And this image is its cover.
Okay.
So, needless to say, Kiefer's David from this movie is one of the great vampires in movie history.
Yeah, of course.
Surprisingly, if you go back and watch it, he's actually not in the movie that much. But obviously, when he's there, he makes a massive impression.
Well, yeah.
Because he's got Donald's genes. And because Kiefer's awesome. There's a very, very long time where Kiefer had no idea Donald was an actor.
It's funny we're talking about Jack Bauer in the last video, so how appropriate.
But yeah, he's just this. And for most of the movie, they think he's the head vampire, just because he just oozes badassery. They just automatically assume.
Of course.
But they're all actually just like the kids of Max, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we have this Diane Waste character who's really sympathetic and who got divorced when she probably shouldn't have.
Mm.
And she's dating Max, and this is the first time she's dated in a while and has been happy for a while. But it turns out that Max just basically wants to make what Sam calls, Edgar Frog calls the blood-sucking Brady Bunch. Where he's going to turn them all into vampires and then turn Diane Waste and she'd be like the mother of all of them. As I think I talked about before in that video, surprisingly for being a vampire movie, The Lost Boys is kind of low on gore.
Mm-hmm.
Now, don't get me wrong. Okay. There are two scenes of gore. Two major scenes of gore, anyway. There is the time to join the club scene, which is really fucking gross. And then there's the ending where it pretty much turns into Evil Dead levels of gore.
Yes.
Where they throw, I can't remember his name, but they have the holy water that's got garlic in it. And it's filled in the bathtub that they fill their water guns with.
Yeah.
And they throw the entire guy into the tub. And his skin melts off and he melts away.
Mm-hmm. And
then once he's dead, blood just shoots out of every pipe in the house. And sinks and toilets explode and just blood covers the whole house.
Yeah.
That's a memorable scene.
Very much so.
And Death by Stereo. Where they shoot him with an arrow and he falls back into the stereo and gets electrocuted until his whole body explodes. Yeah. And then David's infamous impalement, of course, on the antlers. An interesting way to go. And Max's elaborate death.
Yeah.
Involving the shards of wood. Now, I say Near Dark is a lot darker and Lost Boys is mainly a comedy. But it should be addressed, because it's not addressed very often. It's not addressed often enough. The scenes in The Lost Boys where the movie goes horror, the movie's actually really effective with horror.
Mm.
Like, these great scenes that are really, and I don't know if this is budgetary or if it was a director thing, but obviously they fly.
Yeah.
But we never see them fly. We only see them fly from their point of view. We get these overhead shots of who they're coming for, and then we just see them being pulled into the air by nothing.
Okay. And
there's this particular shot that's like really, really gets your blood racing, where Sam is trying to save Nanook and get him back inside before David comes for them. And we see it from David's point of view, and he's flying. And we see him chase Sam, but it's only from his point of view. And it's this really intense scene and shot.
Mm.
And of course, the shots where they, there's a couple of times where they stalk and circle the house on their motorcycles, but all we see are their lights, and we hear them laughing, and that's all we hear, and the sounds of their bikes, that's all we hear. So the horror scenes in The Lost Boys actually don't get enough credit.
Okay.
It's mainly known for its comedy stuff. So, now going into Near Dark, it's basically the same story. You have a guy who has a younger sibling who gets turned into a vampire when he falls into their gang. There's one child vampire. There's a girl that he's in love with. and it goes from there. And he is himself turned into one, so and has to deal with that.
Okay.
And they do that blood transfusion thing, which of course is a brilliant idea because why not? That's pretty much all you can do in that situation. They drive around in Walter White's camper, 20-something years before he had it. And it's Lance Henriksen, it's Jeanette Goldstein, I think is her name, Vasquez from Aliens, and John Connor's foster mom. And then you have and Bill Paxton, basically filling in for Kiefer. As Severin, I think his name is. Yeah, you're getting the whole Aliens cast here because Kathryn Bigelow was married to James Cameron and they shared shit, I guess. Alright. So, the interesting thing is, not only is, I'm basically revisiting what I said in the other video, but fuck it. Not many people probably saw that one anyway.
More than you think, but less than you would probably want to.
I don't care. There's, the interesting thing about this is it's not so much, it's violent and gruesome, but it's not so much vampire violence. It's like actual brutal violence. Like, the great scene in the bar always comes to mind, where they kill everybody in the bar, but not by biting them. Like, there's a guy that, Paxton just squeezes the guy's head in. He uses, the spurs attached to his boots to slice into a guy's face and neck. Paxton, as you can see, gets all fucked up from where he gets hit by a truck and explodes. But it's not without its light moments too. You know, there's the we work late hours line, I think is what it is. And it's got this it's got this particular scene with the younger vampire where in the Lost Boys it's just a kid that got taken and was turned.
Yeah.
But in Near Dark, I think we're supposed to assume he was like changed a long time ago because it's kind of like Joseph Gordon-Levitt on Third Rock from the Sun. He's got the youngest body, but within him is the oldest person.
Yeah.
That was a weird comparison, but
that actually makes total sense if you really think about it from that perspective.
And there's this really intense like scene, like this. It's this intensely poignant scene you don't expect, where obviously he was changed as a kid and he's been living for years and he's never experienced love. So you have the main character's little sister who he meets, and he basically like wants her all to himself. Because this is something that's never happened to him, that he's never had. So, I believe I said in the video, if you look at it from perspective and you really break it down, I suppose by all means, Near Dark should be considered the better movie.
Well, yeah.
Because, what The Lost Boys gains in, like, having tremendous dialogue, Near Dark has, like, endlessly creative ideas and just takes things in directions you don't expect, especially for the genre. And it's really, like, poetic in a way. I just literally read that right off the back and I was thinking, yeah, I actually agree with that. But, like I said, you know, The Lost Boys, you know, came out in the summer and got this massive popularity and overshadowed it, but the problem is that The Lost Boys is always been one of my favorite movies, so I'm kind of biased towards it. But the thing that works for The Lost Boys that makes it a classic is how rewatchable it is, because it has such a fun quality to it.
Okay.
While also exploring serious moments, while having comedic moments, and getting deep in the gore when the time comes.
Yeah, of course.
But, you know, like, I suppose you could, the way I was talking about the carries in the review video, you could almost say Near Dark was more for an adult crowd, and The Lost Boys was more for a teen crowd.
I can see that.
But, I don't know, The Lost Boys just has this endlessly likable quality about it that you can't help but, if you absolutely must choose between it and another movie, you want to choose it. But it's just so, I don't remember much of the dialogue in Near Dark, but a lot of the stuff in The Lost Boys is just so well written. And that, to me personally, I guess trumps all.
I can understand that.
But, Near Dark does have really intense scenes, and the ending is, they don't, The Lost Boys has those vampire characters that are likable, like Star and Laddie, Jamie Gertz and the little kid.
Mm.
Near Dark is no holds barred. They just, if you're a vampire, you're fucking dead. That's what I appreciate about Near Dark. Near Dark had the balls to kill the kid vampire. He was, during the big climax, he gets stuck in the sun and fucking explodes. Now, of course, they find out that Max is the head vampire in The Lost Boys, and they kill Max, thus saving Michael, Star, and Laddie. I actually thought, I know it's dark, and I'm really not one of those people that thinks a movie needs to be dark to be good.
Yeah.
Not at all. That, for some reason, that's a popular thing to think now, I guess. But, for some reason, I've always thought The Lost Boys absolutely sets up that Michael should have probably died.
Oh, yeah.
But they went for the mega happy ending. Oh, I might also point another famous gore scene from The Lost Boys is Alex Winter's death, of course.
69 dudes.
Where they go into the cave while they're all sleeping, and they can't figure out they think it's David, but they can't be sure which one the head vampire is. So Corey Feldman says, fuck it, we'll just kill them all then. And they start with Alex Winter because he's the nearest body. And they stab him, and he just bleeds everywhere, gushing all over them like a hose, and it wakes all of them up. It's just this clusterfuck of a scene. And all they were doing was trying to kill Alex Winter. Which they succeeded in, but they almost got themselves killed in the process. As far as choosing between Bill Paxton and Kiefer, I really do love the Bill Paxton character. He's he has a more sinister quality to him than David, but I don't know what it is about the Lost Boys, but me among many, many, many other people just prefer it. Like I said, I hate to say this about the Lost Boys, but if you look at the two movies and you really dissect them, it's actually pretty shocking that Near Dark isn't widely considered the better movie. If you talk to the right crowds, I'm sure it is. But as is, I guess
You cannot do a draw on these verses.
Well, no, I'm choosing The Lost Boys. It's just, they both should be equally popular.
And one is not as known as the other one.
I don't know anybody in my personal life that, at least if they do, they've never mentioned it. I've never actually met somebody that's seen Near Dark, or for that matter, even knows what it is. I found it in a video store one day, back when video stores still existed. And I hadn't heard of it before I saw it on the shelf. So, were you ever aware of it?
No, when you mentioned it, that was the first time I ever heard about it. And the only reason I heard about it is because that was back when Kathryn Bigelow was running for the Oscar for The Hurt Locker. That's the first time I ever heard mention of Near Dark. It was it's that Millionaire game. The one where you shoot the movie posters. Near Dark is in there. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember it from there. It's like shoot the Kathryn Bigelow movies. I was like, there's more than a couple. Apparently, yes, there is.
Yeah, there's Blue Steel, and The Way to Water, and Strange Days, K-19.
Yeah. I didn't do very good on
I
this.
think I just went through her whole filmography pretty much.
I think you might have.
Point Break.
Yeah.
Yeah, both are great, but I think The Lost West is considered one of the all-time great vampire movies, and Near Dark is more of a buried treasure. So, a cult following, if you will, I guess.
Go out and watch it, though. I mean, if you're a fan of the genre, it's probably best that you watch it, because this might be the first time you've ever heard of it, unless you watched the obscure video. Then if you did, then obviously you would have watched it based upon that. But
I'm sure there's a lot of movie people out there that know what it is, but I've never met really anybody that knows what it is. But yeah, make sure you find it somewhere, and they make great companion pieces to each other, because it's the same story, just with one's fun and one's serious, and that's always a good contrast to have. So, yeah, obviously my overall pick of the Lost West all day long. It was always going to be.
of course,
But,
you want some word to get out about Near Dark, so more people would go see it, would watch it, take the time.
but yeah, it's interesting how they were released at pretty much the same time, and they're so very, very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not identical or anything, but and they go in different directions, but well, not really in too many directions, but yeah, it's just one of those like No Strings Attached and Friends with Benefits, or Mirror Mirror and Snow White and the Huntsman, but that kind of scenario.
These are not verses you're going to be seeing coming anytime soon, or if ever at all. Okay, so that would be another week in the books for verses. Next week, we got a little surprise for you guys. Once again, we're doing Saturday and Sunday verses. We are going to start off on Saturday with Outer Space, and we're going to finish this big hoopla of scary themed verses with the cryptic comment of verses. So try to figure out what that's going to be. AJ, parting thoughts for Near Dark versus the Lost Boys?
No.